welcome to NCRT Made Easy. In the last video, we've learned EQ as well as special abilities like aptitude, interest, etc. Now, in this video, we'll be learning the last subtopic, which is creativity and its influence on intelligence. This is the last, but it's a little big, but it's very basic as well. So let's begin. Bro, we know that there are different We know that there are differences in potential for creativity across individuals and the manner in creativity is expressed. Some are highly creative, others not so creative. Some has creativity in writing, still others in dance, music, poetry, science, and so on. Manifestation of the word creativity can be observed in novel solution. That means new solutions to problems, invention, composition of a poem, painting, new chemical process, innovation in law, breakthrough in preventing disease, etc. So we write this one down now. So manifestation of creativity or creativity can be observed in novel solutions. Definitely a novel solution. This word is very critical. Novel means new. Novel solutions to a problem. And invention. So creativity is using an original idea of yours to make something new using past experiences or knowledge. So an invention, composition of poem, painting, new chemical process, innovation in law, breakthrough in preventing disease or cure to disease, etc. Next, despite differences, common element among these is the production of something new and unique. So what's something important? New and unique. It has to be something new and unique. We generally think of creativity in terms of creative people like Tagore, Einstein, C.V. Raman, Ramanujan, etc., who have made outstanding contributions in different spheres of life. In recent years, our understanding of creativity has broadened. Creativity is not just limited to a selected few like the artist, the scientist, the poet, or the inventor. Even an ordinary individual who's engaged in simple occupations like poetry, pottery, carpentry, cooking, etc., can also be creative. However, it is said that they're not working at the same level as eminent scientists or writers. Hence, we can see that individuals vary in terms of the level and areas in which they exhibit the creativity, and all may not be operating at the same level. Example, Einstein's theory of relativity. It is an example of the highest level of creativity, which implies that bringing out all together new ideas, new facts, new theories and product. Another level of creativity is working on what has already been established earlier. That's it. Understanding what we already learned earlier, making modifications, putting things in new perspectives or to new use. So children begin to develop their imagination during the early years of childhood. So which is an important point. Children begin to develop their imagination during early years of childhood. But they express the creativity mostly through physical activities. Physical activities. and in non-verbal ways. So, when language and intellectual functions are fully developed and store of knowledge is inadequately available. When language and intellectual functions are fully developed, but the store of knowledge is inadequately available, creativity cannot be expressed. But if knowledge is also available adequately, creativity is expressed through verbal modes as well, which means at this age, when they grow, they show it through non-verbal activities, physical activities, right? But when they get knowledge, when they get more store of knowledge adequately, creativity can be expressed through creative verbal ways as well. Those who are understanding in their creativity may give an indication about direction in which their creativity lies through their self-chosen activities, which means they show creativity in their own self-chosen or interesting activities. In some cases, however, opportunities need to be provided before they can manifest their hidden potentials for creativity. Such variations can be attributed to complex interaction of heredity and environment. So it is again interaction of heredity and environment. Interaction of heredity and environment. Alright, there is no disagreement in that creativity is determined by both heredity and environment. Limits, again, as we studied before, also, this one gives the limit. So, limits of the creative potential are set by heredity. Environmental factors stimulate development of creativity. Development of creativity. Alright? How much of a creative potential can be realized when and in what specific form is given by the environment, such as motivation, commitment, family support, peer influence, training opportunities, all this is environment. Although no amount of training can transform an average person to the level of Tagore, Shakespeare, Einstein, etc., but it's also true that every individual can raise his or her level of creative potential beyond their present level. Next, we're going to the topic creativity and its influence on intelligence. Alright, to understand this, let's take an example of two students in a class. First is Sunita. She is regarded by her teacher as an excellent student. She does her work on time, scores the highest grades in her class, listens to instructions with care, grasps quickly, and responds quickly. But she rarely comes out with ideas which are her own, which is creativity. She has intelligence, but she rarely comes out with her ideas which are her own. Secondly, there is a girl called Rita who is just average in her studies and has not achieved grades consistently. But she comes up with new ways of doing works and assignments, which means she's not intelligent, but she's creative. Thus, a person's ability to learn faster and reproduce accurately may be considered intelligent and creative, unless he or she devises new ways of learning and doing. This is what we already learned over here, which is creativity is when you find a novel solution. So there's this psychologist over here named Terman in 1920s found that people with high IQ were not necessarily creative. So he found people with high IQ were not necessarily creative. Necessarily creative. At the same time, creative ideas could come from people who did not have very high IQ. People could be creative without much IQ. Could be creative. This also comes as a case-based study, or just as. Do you think an intelligent person cannot be creative, or do you think a creative person cannot be intelligent? Justify your answer. Choose one. Choose both. Just justify your answer. You may come as case study as well. Very important. And this is very subjective question, so you can write as much as you want. People could be creative without having much IQ. Without much IQ. Other researchers have shown that not even one of those identified as gifted followed up throughout their adult life, had become well known for creativity in some field. So this is what the relationship is shown. Researchers have also found this, and then they also found that the same person who is highly intelligent may not be as creative, because it is not necessary the intelligent ones in conventional sense must be creative. Intelligence therefore by itself does not ensure creativity. So intelligence does not ensure creativity. Researchers have found the relationship between creativity and intelligence is positive. So what is its relationship? The correlation is positive, which means if that all creative activities require some amount of knowledge, which means they have a relationship. For example, zero intelligence would not lead to this, or zero creativity would not be because of this. If you have at least a little bit of intelligence, you can be creative. So there's a minimum amount of intelligence needed for creativity. That's why the correlation is positive. It would be negative if no intelligence could also lead to creativity, or the vice versa. So creative writers, for example, need facility in dealing with language. The artist must understand the effect that will be produced by a particular technique of painting. Scientists will be able to reason what they're doing, and so on. Hence, why is this? A certain level of intelligence is required for creativity, but beyond that, intelligence does not correlate with creativity. Creativity. It can be concluded that creativity can take many forms and plans. That creativity can take many forms. Can take many forms. Some may have more of intellectual attributes, others may have more of attributes associated with creativity. Now we'll be discussing some attributes of a creative person. For finding the attributes of a creative person, creativity tests came into existence to find the potential for creativity in contrast to intelligence. A general feature of most creative tests is that they are open-ended. Most creative tests are open-ended so that they can give subjective answers and give novel solutions. They permit the person to think of different answers to the question or problems in terms of his or her experiences, whatever these may have been. These help the individual to go in directions. So, they allow divergent thinking. Divergent thinking. They allow divergent thinking. In contrary to intelligence test, which is convergent thinking. Divergent thinking means directional. Directional thinking. Convergent towards controlled, constrained thinking. In test of intelligence, the person has to think of the right solution to the problem and focuses on assessing the abilities such as memory, logical reasoning, accuracy, and etc. But where there is little scope for expression of spontaneity. There's very little scope. There is almost no chance of expressing creativity. Such are the reasons for which creativity tests have been developed separately. They have different stimuli like words, figures, action, sound, and your subjective, open-ended. These tests measure general creative abilities like ability to think in a variety of ideas in a given topic, alternative ways of looking at things, problems or situations, to guess causes and consequences, to think of unusual ideas, to improve and use common objects, ask unusual questions, and so on. A few investigators have also developed tests of creativity in different areas such as literary creativity, scientific creativity, mathematical creativity. There are many kinds of creativity, right? Now there's another point here. Some famous psychologists. Who are they? Who have who developed creativity tests. These creativity tests. Guilford. It's good to remember these names. It might come as MCQs, it might come as a question. Not as a whole question, but as a part of a question. And you don't need to remember all of the names, you can remember some. Guilford, Durrance, Catena, Wallach, Kogan, Paramesh, Bakir Mehdi, and Pasi. If you learn this as a song, you'll be able to easily finish it off. Much more revision, learning it as a song, you'll be able to say it. Say them together: Guilford, Torrance, Khatina, Walaj, Kogan. Then Paramesh, Bakir Mehdi, or just remember the easy names like Paramesh, Bakir Mehdi, Pasi. Try to remember, like keep cues in your head like that. Make an acronym or anything such that you can remember these. It's up to you, but memory is very important. Prepare cues as you want. Each test that they developed has a standardized procedure, a complete set of manual, and interpretation guide. Of course, it's not a test if there is no standardized procedures. It has a complete set of manual and interpretation guide. How to interpret the guide, how to interpret the assessment. These can be used only after extensive training in administration and interpretation of test scores. So that's the end of this chapter. In the next video, we'll be doing the guide questions. Other than that, you're supposed to practice exercise questions at your home. Keep on. Whatever concepts we've learned so far, write them, not as points, as descriptions. Practice makes perfect. So try the exercise questions at home. Of course, you can come down in the comment sections and ask any questions that you have. After this, we'll be discussing the guide questions, and also do check my Instagram page that I'll be uploading soon, where I'll be giving all the guide questions, all of my notes. You'll be getting everything for revision if you do not need, or if you cannot go through my videos at the end. Definitely hoping for the best. Finish this chapter with me. Let's go on. Revise daily, by the way. Thank you. See you there.